We are live. Okay, so
Hello.
hello. See, this is why I love Latoya. She is my ace in the hole. So, welcome to Safe Space Talks. We're
Wait,
keeping
you got to do greetings.
okay.
Greetings.
First of all, I hit the button too early, y'all. I apologize. I didn't want to close my window, and we have a little sidebar chat before we get on. So, I'm Nigeria. This is Latoya Natavi. Greetings. Welcome to, to Safe Space Talks Mind Mastery. And today's topic is an excellent topic. And I know it's going to help a lot of people. All right.
Yes.
So, the topic for today is fear and how it affects our mental health. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let me tell you, fear is a response at a high level emotional response. Okay. Remember last week, always go back to our previous, we were talking about narcissistic personality disorder, and they was having the unrealistic and not being able to reason. So fear is along those lines. It's like you have good fear, bad fear. So although fear alerts us about a present danger or threat, which is good,
Hmm.
but when many are not able to understand the difference between a real threat and the imagined danger, it leads to an uncontrolled distress that, you're like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And people
Yeah.
are actually like, they're really, really fearful. And it's an extreme and out of proportion response to, which can also be a symptom connected to some mental health conditions connected to
Hmm.
panic disorders. Phobias is one of the larger ones, and PTSD, which is something I'm very, very familiar with. And the emotional response to fear has the same chemical reactions in the brains as happiness and excitement, which is positive. And so fear can be fun for those who enjoy scary movies, the roller coaster. They're called the adrenaline junkies,
Hmm.
and they'll call you the scaredy cat. Oh, why you doing it? They jumping out of planes and all kinds of paranoid. And we looking at them like, y'all go
Mm-mm.
ahead, you do
Yeah.
that.
Go
That's
right
you,
on.
right? That's you all day. So they love those fear-inducing situations, while other, while we are or others are like, y'all go ahead with that, like I said. So there can be the negative reaction to facing fear, and that's what we'll be talking about today when you're just really fearful. So I'm going to pass the mic to Latoya as I pull myself together.
Don't you make me laugh at you.
Lord have
Oh,
mercy.
yes. Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to some, wherever you are in the world. We thank you for tuning in to Safe Space Talks. And so today we are talking about a subject that everybody will experience. Fear is as Nigeria said, a natural response. Fear protects us, right? Um, we have a fear of heights for a reason. As babies, if you're crawling around, it would be unsafe, and it could be unsafe and unwise, right?
Yeah,
For a
right.
baby to just crawl over the step.
What the? Okay. So as she gets ready to come back on. I don't know what's going on right now, but she'll be back, and we'll I'll keep going. So I already know what she was saying, that it's not wise for us to do things like let the baby run in the street. That is not going to be conducive, right? And when you see a child running in the street, what happens? You get like, oh my God, stop the child, help. Okay, come on
I'm
back
so,
in.
so I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
All these things with technology, they're good, but I don't know how my computer got connected to my phone, and so now my phone is on do not disturb. But apparently my laptop is not. So if you are in my family and you are tuning in, please don't call me while I am. interfering with my with my stream. Listen, you got to learn to laugh. I'm telling you.
Of course,
Listen,
of course.
laughter is medicine for a
You better
reason.
know it. You better
It
know it.
releases those endorphins. And so we're talking about fear. So fear is a response that God has given us to protect us, right? You know, if you see a snake, or if you see an animal that you know you have no business, well, most of us, there's
Right.
some, most of us know, you're not going to touch a tiger.
Right.
You know, you're not going to bother a bear. Most people.
Right.
You're going to leave a snake alone and let it be.
Right.
And so that initial inherent fear is there to protect you. But as Nigeria said, sometimes fear can be excessive to the point where it's crippling. And so
Right.
there are many people who are unable to go outside. There are many people who are unable to get certain jobs. There are many people who are unable to speak in public. There are many people who are not able to make friends because of fear. So fear literally cripples people and it robs you of your life. And so I'll give you an example from my own personal life. When I was growing up, I wanted to become an actress. And I really didn't have fear of like speaking in public. I auditioned all the time. I got accepted to an acting school in Dallas, but I got married at a very young age. And so the fear of me disappointing my husband at the time kept me from pursuing my dreams and my goals, aspirations to
Right.
become an actress, right? And so that fear robbed me of the opportunity to do what it is at the time I believe that I should have been doing. And so it's something that for a long time plagued me until I just realized, hey, I'm fine.
Right.
I've done what God has called me to do in this season, but I made up my mind that I will never allow fear to
Right.
keep me from doing something again. And so I think Joyce Myers may have coined the phrase "do it afraid." And so
Right.
now, even
Right.
though fear may come, I don't like speaking in public. I really don't.
Yeah, me
Um,
neither.
it's not something that I love, but I know it's something that's necessary, right? I can do it. And somewhere along the lines, probably through trauma and things like that, I developed a real fear of public speaking. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
have it growing up. Again, you heard me say that I
Right.
was auditioning. I was,
Right.
I thought I was the bomb.com.
You are.
So I did not have that fear. I didn't know where it came from, but I think it was related to different trauma that I experienced
Right.
in that marriage. And so you have to make a decision
Right.
that you won't allow fear to rule and reign in your life. And so, what I want to talk about is the physiological response to fear, or what's really happening in our brains when it comes to fear. Because again, fear is something that we all will experience. It's a normal reaction to a threatening situation, right? It's
Mhm.
common in our life. It's a common occurrence. But when fear becomes greater and the situations become greater and it cripples us and it becomes an inappropriate response, then we can begin to have like anxiety disorders and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
And so the structure in the brain that's mostly related to fear is the amygdala. And we've talked about the amygdala before on
Right.
the show. And so just to recap, the amygdala is a structure that's located in the deep anterior and inferior temporal lobe of your brain, right? The amygdala receive projections mostly from the thalamus, or the sensory regions of the thalamus, and the cortex. And so what happens is it receives that information from that and then it responds, right? And so there's other structures like the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex that also sends information. Now, remember, the amygdala plays a role in our emotional responses, right? Fear, anxiety, anger, pleasure, all of that. So there are two pathways that I want to talk about when it comes to fear. There's a short pathway and then there's a long pathway. And so the short pathway is the thalamo amygdala. So that's when the thalamus sends a subcortical um, information straight to the amygdala. That route is very short and it doesn't require thinking. And so you can respond and you can react emotionally without even processing it. So
Right.
think about this. You're in your room and you see something out the corner of your eye and you react immediately. You're startled. You
Right.
think it's a spider. You didn't have time to process it. And then later on you find out it's your hair. We've all been there, right? We've all done that. Like, you know what? you running from a sock, anything,
Right,
you be
right,
like, oh, what's that?
right,
You know?
right,
You have that automatic response, and then you feel foolish in the end, like,
right.
okay, like really? Yeah, I
Yeah,
do it all the time. I'm telling you right
yeah.
now.
Especially
I
with the
hate
hair.
bugs.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
springtime,
yeah.
hate bugs. So I'll be outside trying to have a little, nighttime movie night outside on the patio with my husband, and I'll feel a spider and spaz out, and it's my hair. So I'll be slapping. It don't be
I
nothing but
love
my
it. I
hair,
love
and I feel like a complete idiot.
right,
But it's that quick, that
right,
short route of fear, and I don't have time to process. I don't have time to
right,
say,
right.
oh, well, wait a minute, let me think.
The wind
It's not really
blew and then my
heavy.
hair, right,
Exactly, right? But so the longer route, right? The thalamocortical amygdala, that goes through the cortex. So that it involves cognition. So you're able to process it, right? So you're able to make sense of it and to pretty much generate an emotional response from a more clear picture of the stimulus. So you're able to determine, for example, um, is this truly something that I should be afraid of? Is
a
it a
threat,
true
a real
threat,
threat,
right?
right,
Or is it a perceived threat, or did I make a mistake and think that my shoe was a snake or whatever?
right,
And so those are the two pathways that fear goes through in your brain. So that the longer one, right, the second one,
mhm,
that one also involves more the hippocampus. And so the hippocampus is a structure that supports explicit memory. So basically, it looks at all the memories that have been like
associated,
categorized, right? Cataloged
mhm,
in your brain from your previous experiences. And it tells you, you know what, you don't have to be afraid of this, because remember when you have, it wasn't a threat, right?
right,
And
right,
so God is so amazing in the way that He created us,
yeah,
right? That our
yeah,
brains can really catalog events that have happened in our lives, and it can help us to rationalize if something is a true threat or not. And so what begins to happen though is those areas become so sensitive to stress response around us, when they just kind of are hijacked by trauma and things of that sort. And when you go through complex trauma, those different areas of the brain work a lot quicker. And so when you begin to have these responses with fear, it begins to affect your heart rate, right? Your heart rate will increase. You begin to sweat. It affects your gut. Remember, we talked about gut health. And so
yeah,
it affects the microbiome. It affects, you have all those receptors in your gut. So you can
right,
feel nauseous. It affects the
yeah,
motility of your gut. And
yeah,
so the fear response really and truly affects every area of your body. And so that's why a lot of times people who are constantly anxious and constantly worried will have heart issues later on,
right,
because you think about your heart. If your body is always wired, right, you're
right,
always
right,
hyper
right,
aroused, your heart is always beating fast, your blood vessels are always kind of constricting in the out in those peripheral areas of your body. You putting your body through this stress all the time, it can begin to wear you out. And
right,
so we wanted to talk about fear today because it's something that we all
um,
experience. And if we don't get a hold of it, it will get a hold of us, and it will begin
mhm,
to control our lives to the point where we don't have the quality of life that God wants us to have. There
right,
may be opportunities that God wants you to walk into, but because of fear, because of a memory that you have cataloged right
mhm,
in your hippocampus from a child, when you got up and you spoke and people laughed at you, now you don't want to speak,
mm,
you know,
right, right,
or for instance, there may be a friend, a person that God wants to connect you to. He may want you to network for your business, but
mhm,
because you had that boss that was a narcissist, right?
right, right,
You you may be afraid to speak to somebody that reminds you of them, and so that memory will flood your mind, that you'll begin to have that fear response. And so there are so many different situations that can happen that could cause this fear response, but it can really and truly keep you from doing things that God have called you to do. Different
right.
experiences, there are people and who've never traveled outside of the US.
You ain't never lie. No, no.
There are people who've never flown on
On
a
an
plane.
airplane. Yeah.
there are people who will never get on the boat.
Right.
And
Right.
these people are believers. I don't know
Right.
how.
Right. Right.
I don't know what they believe in, because we're not supposed to fear.
That's right. Right.
And so God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. We have freedom in Christ. And
Right.
so you should know that God is going to protect you, whether you're in the plane or whether you're on a boat or whether you in between. He protects you when you're in the car. But
That's
there are
right.
people who will never experience other regions. You know, they may have grandchildren in a different state. They won't even be able to have a life with their grandchildren because fear will
Right.
stop them from getting on the plane. And so we want to bring these things to your attention because we want you to be free. We don't want you to continue to be crippled by something like fear. You
That's
know,
right.
God designed it to protect you, but you allowing it to really and truly to kill you, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
the enemy comes to
Kill.
steal, kill, and to
Yeah.
destroy. And so he's stealing you and robbing, he's stealing from you and robbing from your life. He's destroying the life that you could live, right?
Right.
So this is why we wanted to come on and bring these things to your attention. I'll
Yeah. I
pass it
mean,
to you,
it's
Nigeria.
yeah. It's just like I like you in that vein. I mean, half of the Bible, God is repeating, "Fear not, for I am with
Mm-hmm.
you. Fear not." Right? God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of love, power to overcome it, and a sound mind. And this is what we want you to have here at Safe Space Talks. We need you to have a sound mind, the renewing of the mind, taking thoughts captive. All
Yeah.
of these scriptures is for you to get some control over your thoughts and rebuking the thoughts that come to you. It's okay, to have that little startle because, like we saying, fear is good, but it cannot cripple you. It cannot. And so, Latoya, what are some solutions as far as therapy or seeing someone in regards to fear, because it's not fear itself but the symptoms that are attached to it, like the anxiety, the depression, the phobias, stuff like that. How can someone lightly just be like, okay, what's one step I could do?
Yeah. So the first thing is speaking to somebody, right? You know if fear is excessive, right? You know
Right.
if you have a hard time leaving your house.
Right.
You know if you don't want to go to the grocery store. You know if you can't fly on planes. You
Right.
know if you're just having, sometimes people can have panic and fear for no reason at all, right?
Right.
It always starts with a thought, but the thoughts
Right.
go by
Right.
so fast that they're not cognizant of those thoughts. So the first thing is seeing someone, talking to a therapist, or even make an appointment with your primary care provider and letting them know, hey, I've been struggling with anxiety. Like this
Right.
thing is really bothering me. Like I'm having panic attacks. I'm feeling it in my chest. It's upsetting my stomach. I can't sleep at night, or I can't leave my home without feeling like something awful is going to
It's gonna
happen, those
happen. Yeah.
foreboding things. So
Right.
see your primary care provider, or make an appointment with a therapist, or a psych provider. And
Okay.
so they'll be able to determine the level of fear that you're having. If you have just generalized anxiety, if you have a panic disorder, right? If you have PTSD, if you have some other type of trauma related disorder, they'll be able to assess you and determine if you need A, medication, if you need B, therapy, if you need
Right.
C, a combo. And then they'll be able to also give give you, because most of the time people need a
A
combo for real.
combo. Yeah.
Um, so they'll be able to also give you tools like if you need to do meditation, if you need to
Yeah.
do mindfulness, and those are things you can look up on your own. Like you can look up
Right.
meditation, you can look up mindfulness, you can do things like Tai Chi.
Right.
Exercise is big.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so here's the thing: the very thing that is making you afraid is what you need to do,
Mm.
right? If you're afraid of going outside, the thing is, you've got to conquer it. Even if you challenge
Right.
yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to conquer this thing. I'm going to go outside, even if it's only 30 minutes, even if it's only 10 minutes, even if it's only 20 minutes, I'm going to do it. And so it may seem, like something small to some people,
To
but for
some
you,
people,
those
right.
10
But
minutes
for,
is
yeah.
significant. you know. And so, and as you continue to do it, you'll begin to desensitize yourself to that fear. And so there's a therapy called like exposure therapy,
Right.
where pretty much it is, you know, what it says it is.
Right.
You're pretty much exposed to the thing that you are afraid of over time. You know, they might show you a picture, or they might show you a shape of something. You know, if a person is afraid of snakes, you know, they'll show you something that's not a snake, but maybe
Right.
it's the same shape.
Shape.
You know,
Right.
and so then maybe you graduate to like a picture, and I'm not an expert on it, but it's
Right.
something like that. So you can do something like that when it comes to yourself. For me, again, I don't know when the fear of public speaking kind of came over me, but I just made myself do it. You know, I
Right.
got up in church, you know, I taught whenever, you know, I prayed whenever, and I just did it anyway. And
Right.
so that's how you begin to conquer fear, because you've got to conquer it. There's sometimes when you have to just reset, you know, that autonomic nervous system. And so that's where things like Tai Chi is important. Meditating is important.
What about
Sometimes doing
acupuncture?
acupuncture is good too. I don't know how acupuncture is probably better for like tension.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you think about fear, right? When if you are in more of that frozen kind of state,
Right.
you're tense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I carry a lot of stress in my shoulder. So I'm always having shoulder pain. And so sometimes
Wow.
people will have shoulder pain, they'll have
Knee,
neck
back.
pain, they'll have
Mhm.
back pain, they'll have pelvic floor pain, because your pelvic floor responds to fear quicker than any other muscle group in your body.
Wow.
And so you know, some people guard. And so when
Yeah.
they guard, you know, those muscles are stiff, or you know, they're contracted. And so what happens is they become kind of toxic. Blood is
Yeah.
not flowing. And so
Wow.
for that, acupuncture would be good, because it'll help get the blood flowing in those areas of your body that could be problematic because of the anxiety and tension and fear. So if
Yeah.
you have like frequent headaches in the back of your neck,
Yeah.
and your neck is tight, you know, talk to your doctor. It could be tension headaches. For something like that, then acupuncture would be good for.
Wow. Yeah. I can talk about PTSD and that carrying the stress in my shoulders as well, and that
Mm-hmm.
tensing up.
Mm-hmm.
With PTSD, that fear kick in, and I'm always frozen at
Yeah.
first. It's
Yeah.
always a freeze response, like,
Yeah.
you know, like what I gotta
Mm-hmm.
do, you know, what
Yeah.
I gotta punch you in the face, I gotta kick you, you know, like okay, so
Yeah.
my battle with my challenge with PTSD was very violent. I was very violent, you know. So I
Yeah.
thank God, y'all better be glad I'm
That was your
delivered.
coping strategy.
Yeah, my coping strategy to get you up off of me, you know what I'm saying? So I
I'm
thank
coming
God
out
for
swinging.
deliverance.
Don't corner me.
Right. Oh yeah,
You
don't
know?
do that. Don't do that, because I'm coming
Yeah.
out. Okay,
Right.
I'm coming out.
And
So
see,
yeah,
and that's you bring up a good point. And this is why you have to be careful with how you treat people and how you handle people, because you
girl.
don't know the fears that people have. Like my sister, I'm serious. Let me say, I gotta be politically correct. So she's terrified of little people.
Right.
You know, I mean, like I like, it's embarrassing, seriously.
Right.
And so, but that, I don't know where the fear came from, but I mean, like she would cry. And
Mhm.
so you think about, so we would try to force her, like, you know, force her. Listen,
Why y'all
don't
doing
force
that?
people to do stuff.
Right.
You know, don't, if people say leave them alone,
Right.
don't talk to them, get back.
Right.
You
Because
can
we're
learn to
gonna
listen,
warn you.
because I'm telling you,
Yeah.
you're too close to me.
Right.
I'm like that. I listen, do not get up in my face, please.
Right.
I'm
Right.
telling you, just don't. That's how so if I say back up,
Right.
that's
Back
what I
up.
mean.
Right.
Back up. Get
Right.
out of my face, because
Right.
I'll spaz now.
Right.
So when you say that that's how you kind of dealt with it, there are a lot of people who are struggling with anxiety. There are people who struggle with PTSD from combat. There are people who
Right.
struggle with PTSD from just life, right? From
Right.
childhood, from abusive relationships. You know, for you, it was a fire. You know,
Right.
there are people who are struggling with PTSD from a lot of things.
Right.
And sometimes their way out is to fight. Remember, fight
Fight,
or
flight,
flight or
or
freeze or
freeze. Right.
fawn, right?
Right.
So if that's their flavor, and you sitting up, come on, man, what's
Yeah.
wrong? Tell me. Okay, get punched in the face.
Right,
You
right.
got to learn to allow people to be healed at the rate that they are comfortable with,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
let professionals deal with people. Don't
Right,
be so quick to, because we live in a society now where everybody want to be a hero.
right.
No,
Right,
just call the authorities
right.
and let
Right.
people deal with it. Or if you're at
Yeah.
home, just give people their space and let them work through those things on their own. You
Yeah.
be supportive from a distance, but if they're telling you, they're warning you to get back, don't push so hard, because people who don't struggle with PTSD and people who don't struggle with anxiety, it's so foreign to them. They
Right.
can't believe it. Like, how are you afraid of this? How are you
Right,
afraid of a
right,
little
right.
bitty
And
bug?
the whole get over it and
Yes, that's
stop.
it. Get over.
And
Yeah,
what's
you need to get
wrong
over
with you?
it.
Like I just told you,
You need to
and I was
conquer
one
it,
of those
right?
people. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
one of those people because I used to always say, how come in New York, like if you stepped on someone's foot, they was fighting you and stuff. And I thought it was just because they stepped on their sneaker and their sneaker was new. But I
That
mean,
can be.
yeah, true, true, true. But a lot of times people are responding to issues that they're dealing with that
Yes.
is unbeknown to you. And let me tell you, after being challenged with PTSD, when I tell you I don't bother nobody and I leave people alone because I know the thoughts that ran through my head, I do not,
Yeah.
I be like this, listen, you got it. It's okay. Because, I am like, let's not do it, just let's not do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because you know, my therapist can tell you I might have her on the show one day that the thoughts that was running through my little mind. I was like, now you're not gonna put me in the rubber room, right? Because I just want to share this with you. But
Hmm.
it's real.
You never
And
know what
you're
I'm telling
constantly
you.
feeling like someone's threatening you.
Yes.
So if
You
you can
don't know.
imagine that 24 hours a day, you are feeling threatened. Like you said,
Hmm.
that anxiety kicks up. Now you got high blood pressure. Now you got headaches. You're tense, your muscles, your back hurt, your neck hurt. That's
Hmm.
24 hours a day of constantly being in fear for your
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
Literally, I would always feel like I was in fear for my life.
Yeah.
So my response to a threat was going to be, is me or you, because,
Hmm.
I think you're trying to take me out.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to be
Yeah.
careful walking in these streets with people. We don't look like what we're going through.
I'm
We
telling
don't look,
you, you
mental
just don't
illness
know.
doesn't have a look unless it's at its extreme. So,
Yeah.
you may be fooled by the cute, but they crazy. That's why cuteness don't do it for me no more. I used to be on, oh, he fine. Now I'd be like, he
Listen.
fine, but he may be
Mm-mm.
crazy. So,
You got a resume.
so we gotta go peel back them onion layers, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
don't let cute be it for you no more. Don't start
Mm-mm.
asking second and third level questions. Start trying to know a person. Dig a little
Yeah.
deep. Get off that surface,
Right.
and you'll be able to find out what's going on with them.
That's true. Yeah, this is a good topic because it's something I think everybody will be able to relate to in some fashion. Not
Yeah.
everybody will have, a mental health disorder like a generalized
Right.
anxiety disorder or panic disorder, PTSD, but everybody has experienced anxiety. Everybody has experienced fear. And so it's important to talk about these things because you'll know what's a normal response to fear versus
Right.
what's excessive and what's crippling you and what's robbing you of your life.
Yeah.
And so, Nigeria mentioned get over it, but it's not something that you can just get over. You've got to conquer it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to do it strategically. There's strategy to be able to heal from the things that have caused you to suffer in the first place, right? And
Right.
so what happens is we develop this loop, right? This fear
Right.
loop. And
Right.
it's hard to get out of that loop. Your brain is so powerful. Again, we talk about the hippocampus.
Yes.
It remembers all these different things. And then you have an imagination.
Yeah. I
So
wanted to talk
now
about that. Yeah.
you will imagine things that's not even there. And guess what? And then you'll have a fear response
Right.
to those imaginative things that you have.
But let's talk
Imagine.
about when we were little, right? And you mentioned it earlier, like you come home, you have a chair in your bedroom, you threw your sweater or your coat there, right?
Yeah,
And then you kind of roll over in the middle of the night, and then you staring like, what is that? Wait,
exactly.
what is that? In my
Right.
room, what is that? What's that over there in the corner? Meanwhile,
Hmm.
it's your blouse, your jacket, and then you so scared you just roll back over, and then when the light, morning come, you like, I was scared
Really?
all
I
that
was scared
time,
of
and
that.
that was my jacket.
Yeah, but you think about it, Nigeria. So what's imprinted on our subconscious mind is something that we've seen kind of over and over again, or something that we've experienced but we had an emotional response to it. And so because we've had such an emotional response to it, our brains are like, okay, I got to catalog that.
Right.
You think about when you're young and you hear all these stories,
Mm,
you watch these different movies. That's why when my kids were growing up, I didn't let them watch horror movies.
okay.
And so, because I know what it did to me, you
Right,
know.
right, right.
I don't know if I shared this before, but I remember when I was young and I went to go view a cousin's body when I was really little. I didn't know what that meant. I was
Right.
following some other cousins talking about we're going to go view the body. I had no idea what that, but and so then I went there and seen she was an older cousin, like like
Right.
we would call her auntie, laying on this metal table,
Right.
this,
Oh yeah.
and with like embalming. I mean,
Right.
listen.
I know. I
I held
know.
my pee all night. I could not go to the bathroom. I was so afraid of death because of that.
Right. Right.
So it's like, then you hear these stories about different spirits and demons. And
Yes.
so then you be like, oh my God, is that a demon?
Right.
What's that? What's,
Right. Witchcraft
what
and all of
spirit?
that. Yeah.
So when you start hearing all these different things as a kid, we're so impressionable as a
Right.
kid.
Right.
You might not think them kids are paying attention, but I'm telling you, I would just be
Yeah.
quiet, listening to everything,
I
getting all the
know. I
business
know.
as a kid, but also getting the stuff that I shouldn't have. And the enemy
Right.
does that
Yes, he
strategically,
does. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because he wants us to be fearful, because
Right.
fear and faith can't reside
But
together.
come on. Come
And
on.
so if we're fearful, then a lot of the stuff we'll do to ourselves. He's
Right.
already planted the seed. And
Right. The
so
thought.
we,
That
we we
thought.
can become ensnared by the words that come out of my mouth, out of our mouths. We can become ensnared by the thoughts that we think. As a man thinketh in his heart,
It's
so is
not
he.
so easy.
And so if he can get you fearful and put those images in your mind as a young kid, then he can control you as an adult. And he can
Right.
use you yourself, because he don't have any power without you. He
Right.
can control you and get you to rob you of your own life
Of your
from
own.
fear
Yeah.
seeds that he's planted as a child. So when you see that chair, so now you're afraid to have an encounter and an experience with God because you're so afraid of demons and devils.
That part. That is
You
good.
know,
That is good.
we talk more about demons and devils than we do
Then
about
then
God.
the then the okay, then
We
the
demon
power of
devil
God,
focused.
like he right, like he has more power than God. Like who said that and who started that lie? That's a big
Yeah,
one.
he did it as
You
a
know,
kid.
I mean, I'm not
Those
saying he don't have
conversations.
power and rulership, but he ain't stronger than my God. So let me just be
Yeah.
clear, okay?
Yeah.
And
But those are the things that happen as a child. And so and those are the things that you have to reprogram in your
that's
mind.
it.
You've got to
That's it.
reprogram your subconscious mind by repetition of the truth.
And that's the tool, one when that thought comes, immediately stop it. I
Mhm.
don't want to think, just y'all know me, right? I don't want to think about that. I
That's
rebuke
it.
that thought.
That's not
I,
my
I,
thought.
I take that, right. That's not my thought. I take that thought captive. I'm not, I'm
Mhm.
not, I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to,
Yeah, seriously.
but
And
you,
so what I do is replace it.
right, right.
Because
You have to,
sometimes if you try and stop it, especially if you dealt with an anxiety disorder, if you try and stop the thought, the more you try and stop to think about it, you are thinking about it. So what
right.
I do is replace it with the truth.
Okay.
Whatever the fear is that I'm experiencing, oh man, if I go there, everybody's going to be, worrying about this, and everybody, no, the truth is,
Right,
I
right.
commend the room. The
I like
truth
that.
is,
Yeah. The
God
truth.
has given me the intelligentsia of the Holy Spirit. The truth is, I
Right.
have the language of the learned. The truth is,
Come on.
so you replace it instead of trying to stop it.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that
Yeah.
correction.
No,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, no, no. We got to give it right.
Yeah, that and that works for me because
Right.
when I
Right.
try and stop it, and what I've noticed even in clinic is that when people like, oh, I'm trying to stop it, I'm trying to, I keep trying to stop these thoughts, and I just the more I
You're right.
try and stop, the more I think
Yeah.
about it. So okay, so let's not focus on stopping it. Let's just replace it.
Yeah. For me, stopping, I can stop it. Like I'll be like, I don't want to think about that. And for me, I won't continue to progress thinking about it.
Hmm.
Once out my mouth, once I
Yeah,
command it, once I
yeah.
say, I'm not thinking about that, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus,
Hmm.
it's a done deal for me.
And I love how you say out of your mouth,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's another way you can break it is speaking out loud the truth
Right. Right. That's
versus
right.
constantly being in your
In
mind.
your
No,
own
speak it.
mind, right? Trying to
Speak it
deal
out
with
loud.
it. You got to get the escape out. Well,
Hmm.
you know what? This has been great. I
It
hope you
has
guys got
been.
some nuggets about fear. Let's do a quick recap. Remember, there's good fear, bad fear. There's the adrenaline junkies who want roller coasters, and that's why they have millions of amusement parks. Disney makes billions a year. Because there's some people out here that just love that. I see a big old uh, roller coaster, and I'm not getting it on. I'm not
I
getting on.
love roller coasters,
My sisters too, and they get on, and they that's why I said scaredy cat, because they be like, "You're a scaredy cat."
but
You,
I won't bungee jump, and I ain't jumping out no airplane until I'm 75.
I think I want to skydive. I want to do that. I'm gonna skydive. So these are things that you know. And what's the other one? The line where you just
The
go
bungee
like,
jump or the
no,
zip
the
line.
zip line. I want to do the
Yeah.
zip line, even though I
Yes.
saw a video of the little boy and the thing done pop. But
Oh
me and
Jesus.
Jesus, we gonna
But it's
zip
okay.
line.
We're gonna go to the zip line that's
Right. And
secure.
swimming, there's so many things attached to fear. Speaking, swimming, playing sports, doing anything, even entertainers, as I'm in the entertainment business, there are people, who perform all their life, and still every time they get ready to hit that stage, they have a little moment of fear and trepidation. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, you've been doing this 100 million years. What you scared about? But it's
Because
just
it's
our
wired.
natural. Yeah, it's
They're
just our
wired that way.
natural response to
Mm-hmm.
everyday life. Listen, we love us some y'all. You can reach
Yes.
out to us at safespacetalks@gmail.com. We're coming to Virginia, and we'll give y'all more updates and information. Again, we had a blast in New York. We're going to Virginia. We're touring. We want your support. Please, if you
Yes.
see in this video, please share it, like, and subscribe. Tell your friends about us if you're enjoying it. We're transparent. We're telling you the truth. We're trying to give you tips to be the better person that we know you are and can be. So
Yes.
until next week, we'll see you one more time and again. Have a great, awesome day. Bye
Have
bye.
a good one.